Good morning. This is Richmond Johnston, and today we have as our guest Miles Bennington. We're going to be interviewing him, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his career as a drummer. And he's currently the lead tip and instructor at the Carnegie Mellon for the Carnegie Mellon Pipe Band, and it's going to be our drumming instructor at Balmoral this summer. Welcome, Miles.
Yes, thank you, Richmond. It's great to be on here with you, answer some questions, just kind of have a nice conversation.
It's good. It's great to see you. I think the first time we met, and possibly the last time I saw you, was when you were a kid and you won the Balmoral Classic drumming competition, solo drumming competition. That was a few years ago.
Yeah, I think almost 10. I think we're coming up on 9 years. So it's kind of crazy to think about that, how long it's been.
We probably saw each other probably the same game, same competitions, but there's a lot of people. All right, so we started. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up about an hour north of Pittsburgh in a little town called Mercer, Pennsylvania. So it was really not conducive to a lot of exposure to pipe band, but it was where I kind of got my start because my dad was involved. So that was always fun to have that small community type element and family involvement then.
Oh, that's great. Was your father in piping or drumming?
Yeah, he was the lead tip of the first band that I started in, actually. And he got into it because he responded to a newspaper ad for a local band that needed drummers. So that was, I don't know, almost 25, 30 years ago. And even then they needed drummers. So
I think
seems to be a continuing problem.
You know, it's always better when it's in the family. It's because you grow up, probably when you were just, before you were even born, you heard, drumming and it just gets in your blood that way. I think it's a great thing. Did it come naturally to you? Was it I think that I actually have a question of how old were you when you started drumming?
So I started drumming in school concert bands and marching bands when I was about 11 or so. But I actually was never really interested in pipe band drumming. My dad did it, and I never really wanted to. And it wasn't until the local band that he was the lead tip for needed drummers for minimums that I was kind of voluntold I had to do it, And it was fun though. Once I got into it, that was about when I was 16. I really just fell in love with it, and I have obviously been very active and busy with it ever since.
That's great. It was great. When did you first meet Andrew?
I met Andrew probably 2010, 2011. At that point in time, I was playing with the Balmoral Highlanders in Pittsburgh under Jimmy McIntosh. And Jimmy had introduced me to Andrew, and I was still a teenager at that point in time. And Jimmy was giving me the Carnegie Mellon spiel, like, you should come here, be a drummer, come to the university. Here's Andrew, the pipe major and the professor of piping. So it was very early on in my career that I was exposed to Andrew and the Carnegie
Mellon. Jimmy
program.
spotted you. I like that. It's funny what you said about your dad told you you're going to do this, because that's what happened with Jimmy. Jimmy didn't have any choice about playing the pipes. His dad told each one of the kids what instrument they were going to play, and Jimmy got bagpipes, and that was all there was to it.
Yeah. Jimmy did a lot for me over the years. Just to do a little Jimmy celebration here. It was actually about a year into me being in his band that the band kind of wrapped things up and he moved south, but they provided me with a scholarship to receive a year's worth of instruction from Reed Maxwell on Skype. So that was something that was really my primary influence very early on. And I was really fortunate to receive that.
That's great. I was going to ask you who your first teacher was and your most influential teacher. Might you say it's Reed?
I think very early on, yes, but I've never directly played for Reed, obviously. So a lot of those people that I have played for over the years, I would say are probably a little bit more directly influential, just because I had to learn the styles, I had to play their music for years at a time, and that can be more impactful. That in-person element can be more impactful.
Who stands out and as say your most influential instructor?
Ooh, it's hard because I think every person who has helped me along the way has helped me in a very different way. So they've been very impactful in different ways. But right off the top of my head, I'm thinking of guys like Michael Crowley in Cleveland, Craig Stewart and Drew Duthard in Ontario. Then nowadays, Graham and Blair Brown are people that I work with playing for Graham down in Texas, and then working on solo stuff with Blair over time every now and then. That's been very helpful and influential for me.
Well, now, there's something unusual about that for me. Most drummers I talk to have one person that they worked with, and then if they're not still in that band, that was their main person. You have a more eclectic and more varied series of instructors. That's interesting. So it might make for a more unique style, or you have your own individuality in that way. It's kind of nice. Do you think you've created and your style is unique to you? A combination of
I
different people?
Yes, I think so. I think that's actually been one of my greatest strengths because all along that way, I was also very active with composition and teaching and writing my own drum scores, and to kind of see the evolution of my writing and my musicality and my leading through playing with all those people. I don't think that that could have happened with only one primary instructor, and it wouldn't matter who it was. I think that varied experience is one of my greatest strengths.
Well, I think that's great. I like that. Um, I like that you're right. You also, obviously, you teach as well. Over the COVID time, you probably taught through over Zoom and Skype and online? And do you have individual students as well? Do you have individual students besides teaching the members of your band, of the drummers?
So I used to have a larger book of students, but I kind of had to peel that back once I took on the Carnegie Mellon role. Because on top of being at Carnegie Mellon University, I'm also a full-time special education teacher here in Pittsburgh. So it was just a lot to manage. But I still keep a couple private students that I'm still very active with, and they're hitting the solo boards this summer, and I'm really excited for that.
Oh, that's great. Now, drumming to me is I love drumming. When I play in pipe bands, competition pipe bands, I always listen to the drums. It's a beautiful system where you can almost just relax, and if you stay right with the drums, it's an incredible combination. Of course, that's important for ensemble, but it's always a pleasure for me. And um, the the importance of drumming in order to have a pipe band, you've got to have drummers. In the past, oh gosh, as long as I've piped, there's always been a problem getting enough drummers. Now it's funny because people that play bagpipes, that there's no lead in for that. You study bagpipes, whereas there's so many drummers. There's so many kids that play rock and roll. There's so many because of band programs in schools. We have drummers, so theoretically, there's a lot more drummers ready to step up to the Highland snare style of playing, which is a wonderfully a great step up because, as you know, it's challenging, and maybe some people view it as the height of snare drumming. Why do you think that we have a problem getting drummers for pipe bands?
I think it's really complex. I think that though we have a lot of drummers in our country who are learning other styles of drumming, I think there is almost at times a certain condescension towards pipe band drumming. And I don't know if that's necessarily deliberate, but I think that it's mostly rooted in the lack of exposure to quality pipe bands, high quality pipe band drummers in many areas of our country. If you think about just the geography of our country, we're huge. And the amount of bands that we have, especially higher level bands, are kind of few and far between. So I think at times, yeah, although we have a lot of drummers, they're not necessarily exposed to the high level music, the high level players and chorus, and able to hear all of those things will get hooked. Because realistically, they're exposed to probably mostly grade 4 or 5 bands, which is probably about the level of average high school marching band. So if they're already doing that marching band thing and there's something that's relatively equivalent, what's going to keep their attention? The thing that they're already doing, probably. It's not motivating enough to have them change their focus.
Good point. I see people heading to probably the most ambitious is doing the DCI or drum and bugle corps, where they're really pressured to work hard. And people that come out of that would be in great form to do high levels of pipe band drumming. Well, it's an ongoing process, and we've got to keep our drummers if we want to keep pipe bands. So
Absolutely.
it's good to talk about this. As I said, I enjoy it. It's really important. So I mentioned before that you had won the Balmoral Classic drumming competition 10 years ago. Why do you think it's important for a drummer to compete solo? It's really a band thing for a Highland snare, but solo competition, again, I enjoy that. I've watched all the worlds, and it's quite a tremendous thing to see these top level of drummers showing their stuff. Why do you think it's important for a solo drummer to compete in solo competitions?
Well, first, I think it's a mindset shift is almost needed for solo drumming and just solo music in general. I think a lot of times drummers find reasons to not do it. I don't have a piper. The piper doesn't know the tunes that I want to do, all of those things. Or if they put themselves out there and they don't get an ideal result, on top of all those other things that had to work through to get there, it can be very discouraging, right? But I think it's important to shift our mindset away from those results and all of those things and really approach it as a way of expressing yourself. Getting to go out there and play something, maybe it's a score that you wrote, maybe it's a score that you are now phrasing or approaching completely differently than what is going on in your band setting or your drum corps setting. And I think it becomes highly beneficial because you learn the art of performance. You learn the art of putting yourself out there. You learn the art of playing in front of people and kind of going with the flow at times. If you blank on a part and you have to kind of work through that on the go, that is another element of performance and professionalism and preparedness that I think other avenues of our idiom don't really provide. I think the solos are really essential for that.
Oh, that's great. So in that sense, because people aren't working as a core, they're going to be coming to you as soloists. What do you hope will be a takeaway for people that come to the school and attend your session?
I hope that people that come to the school and attend the East Stroudsburg session just leave with a renewed sense of passion for the drumming, a renewed sense of passion for the music. As an educator myself outside of the drumming world, I'm very much into people celebrating their own learning and being excited about learning. And I want people to leave this session just feeling excited about the learning that they're doing, the progress that they're making, and using that as a catalyst to continue that even beyond the school. Because that's only going to help the idiom in general.
Well, that's great, Miles. And I look forward to attending the session with you and enjoying a good week of classes. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the future.
Thank you, Richmond.